Welcome to the ultimate guide to FIFA World Cup 2026 qualification, where we explain everything you need to know about who is in and who is out. The 2026 World Cup is going to be the biggest tournament in football history, with 48 teams competing for the first time ever. Qualification for this massive tournament has been underway across all 6 confederations, and the race is absolutely heating up right now. Understanding how teams qualify is essential for every football fan who wants to follow the World Cup journey from start to finish. The qualification process is different for every continent, and each confederation has its own unique system and schedule for teams. In this video, we will break down every single confederation and explain exactly how teams can book their ticket to the World Cup. We will cover UEFA, CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, FC, and OC, so you understand the complete qualification picture. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which teams are qualified and which teams are still fighting for their place. The new format means more teams than ever before will experience the joy of qualifying for the World Cup finals. 48 teams will compete across USA, Mexico, and Canada in the summer of 2026. Let us start with the host nations, because they have already secured their places in the tournament automatically. USA, Mexico, and Canada are the 3 hosts, and they do not need to go through the qualification process at all. This is the first time in World Cup history that 3 nations will co-host the tournament together. The hosts have the privilege of automatic qualification, which gives them valuable preparation time for the tournament. Now let us move to Europe, which has the most teams in World Cup qualification, with 54 nations competing. UEFA has been allocated 16 spots for the 2026 World Cup, which is the most of any confederation. The European qualification process is extremely competitive, with many top teams fighting for limited places available. Teams are divided into 12 groups, and the winners of each group qualify automatically for the World Cup finals. The 12 group winners secure their place directly, while the runners-up enter a playoff system for more spots. 4 additional spots are available through the UEFA playoffs, which involve the 12 best runners-up from groups. The playoff system is a knockout format where teams must win 2 matches to secure their World Cup qualification. This means that 16 European teams will ultimately represent their continent at the World Cup in 2026. Some of the biggest names in football come from Europe, and they will all be desperate to qualify for the tournament. France, England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and Netherlands are among the favorites to qualify from their respective groups. However, there are always surprises in European qualification, with smaller teams occasionally causing major upsets. The European groups are drawn based on FIFA rankings, which ensures competitive balance across all the groups. Teams play home and away matches against each other in their group, with the top team advancing automatically. The qualification campaign in Europe runs over several months, with matches played during international breaks. Now let us move to South America, where CONMEBOL has one of the most exciting qualification systems in the world. CONMEBOL has 10 member nations, and they compete in a single group where everyone plays each other twice. This format is known as the marathon because teams play 18 matches over 2.5 years of qualification. The top 6 teams in the CONMEBOL standings qualify automatically for the World Cup in 2026. The 7th place team enters a playoff against teams from other confederations for a possible additional spot. South American qualification is extremely tough because every team plays against the best sides in the continent. Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Colombia are traditionally the strongest teams, and they usually qualify comfortably. However, the format gives every team a fair chance because they all play the same number of matches against everyone. The marathon format means that consistency is absolutely key, and teams cannot afford to have a bad run of form. The passion and intensity of South American qualifiers is legendary, with matches often played in hostile environments. Altitude, extreme heat, and passionate crowds make CONMEBOL qualification one of the toughest in world football. Now let us look at North and Central America, where CONCACAF has a very different qualification system for teams. CONCACAF has been allocated 6 direct qualification spots for the 2026 World Cup finals. The qualification process in CONCACAF has multiple rounds, with smaller nations playing preliminary matches first. The 3 host nations, USA, Mexico, and Canada, automatically qualify, so they do not participate in qualification. For the remaining teams, there are several rounds of matches to determine who gets the 6 available spots. The final round of CONCACAF qualification is called the Octagonal, which features 8 teams in a single group. The top 3 teams in the Octagonal qualify automatically for the World Cup finals in 2026. The 4th place team enters an Intercontinental playoff for a possible additional spot in the tournament. Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, and Honduras are among the teams fighting for qualification in CONCACAF. The qualification journey in CONCACAF is long and challenging with many teams traveling across the continent. Now let us move to Africa, where CAF has one of the most dramatic qualification processes in world football. CAF has been allocated 9 direct qualification spots for the 2026 World Cup finals. African qualification begins with a preliminary round where the lowest-ranked teams compete for places. The winners then join the higher-ranked teams in the group stage, where 54 teams are divided into groups. 9 groups of 6 teams compete, with the winners of each group qualifying directly for the World Cup. This format ensures that only the best African teams make it through to the World Cup finals. African football is incredibly competitive, with teams like Senegal, Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt all strong contenders. The African qualifiers are known for their passion, drama, and unpredictability, with many surprises happening. Teams must navigate tricky away matches in difficult conditions across the massive African continent. The winners of each group will represent Africa at the World Cup, and they will be determined to make an impact. Now let us look at Asia, where AFC has a complex qualification system with many stages and rounds involved. AFC has been allocated 8 direct qualification spots for the 2026 World Cup finals. Asian qualification starts with a preliminary round involving the lowest-ranked teams in the continent. The winners progress to the second round, where teams are divided into groups playing home and away matches. The group winners and best runners-up advance to the third round, which is the final stage of qualification. The third round features 18 teams divided into 3 groups of 6, with the top 2 qualifying automatically. The third and fourth place teams enter a playoff stage for additional World Cup spots available for Asia. Japan, South Korea, Iran, Australia, and Saudi Arabia are traditionally the strongest teams in Asian qualification. However, there are always surprises and emerging nations that challenge the established powers in the continent. The Asian qualification process is long and grueling, with teams traveling vast distances to play matches. Now let us look at Oceania, where OFC has a small but growing qualification system for World Cup spots. OFC has been allocated 1 direct qualification spot for the 2026 World Cup finals. The OFC qualification process involves a tournament format where all member nations compete for the spot. The winner of the OFC Nations Cup qualifies automatically for the World Cup finals in 2026. New Zealand are the dominant force in Oceania, and they are expected to qualify comfortably for the tournament. However, there are other teams like Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Papua New Guinea who can challenge New Zealand. OFC qualification is a short tournament compared to other confederations, and the winner secures their place. Now, let us discuss the Intercontinental playoffs, which provide additional qualification opportunities for teams. There are 2 Intercontinental playoff spots available for the 2026 World Cup Finals tournament. The playoff involves teams from CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, FC, and OFC competing for the remaining 2 spots. The exact playoff matchups are determined by a draw, and the winners secure their place at the World Cup. This gives smaller nations an additional pathway to qualify for the World Cup Finals in 2026. The Intercontinental playoffs are always exciting because they involve teams from different continents competing. Now let us look at which teams have already qualified for the World Cup 2026 tournament. The 3 hosts, USA, Mexico, and Canada, have already secured their places for the upcoming tournament. Other teams are still in the process of qualifying, and we expect more teams to confirm their places soon. Brazil are currently leading the CONMEBOL qualification standings, and they look set to qualify comfortably. Argentina are also in a strong position to qualify despite their challenging away matches in South America. In Europe, France and England are expected to qualify, but nothing is guaranteed in World Cup qualification. The qualification race is incredibly tight in many confederations, and the final spots will be decided soon. Let us now look at some of the teams that are at risk of missing out on the World Cup 2026. Italy missed the last 2 World Cups, and they are desperate to qualify for the tournament in 2026. The Italian team is currently in a competitive group, and they cannot afford to make any mistakes in qualification. Germany are also in a rebuilding phase, and they need to ensure they qualify for the World Cup tournament. European qualification is always intense because there are more strong teams than available spots for them. In South America, teams like Chile and Paraguay are fighting for their lives in the qualification standings. Paraguay missed the last World Cup, and they are determined to qualify for the 2026 tournament. Chile have a talented generation of players, and they will be pushing hard to secure their World Cup place. In Africa, powerhouses like Nigeria and Egypt are currently in tight qualification groups that are very competitive. Nigeria are desperate to qualify after missing the last World Cup, which was a huge disappointment for them. Egypt have not qualified for a World Cup since 2018, and they want to return to the big stage. In Asia, Australia and Japan are always expected to qualify, but there is intense competition behind them. Saudi Arabia are also pushing for qualification, and they have invested heavily in their football development. The qualification race is wide open in many confederations, and we will see plenty of drama and excitement. Now let us discuss what happens if teams fail to qualify through their confederation and other pathways. Teams that finish in certain positions may enter the Intercontinental playoffs for a second chance at qualification. The playoffs provide a lifeline for teams who narrowly missed automatic qualification in their confederation. Teams can also benefit if there are additional spots allocated due to other teams being disqualified. However, the most reliable way to qualify is to finish in the automatic qualification positions in each confederation. The World Cup qualification process is designed to ensure the best teams from each continent participate. Now let us look at some interesting facts about World Cup qualification throughout football history. The first World Cup in 1930 had no qualification process, with teams simply invited to participate. It was not until 1934 that a proper qualification system was introduced for the tournament. Over the years, the number of teams and the qualification format has evolved significantly across confederations. The expansion to 48 teams is the biggest change to the World Cup format since 1998. This means that more nations than ever before will have the opportunity to experience the World Cup. The qualification process is now a global event in itself, with matches played across the entire world. Fans follow the qualification journey of their teams with intense passion and excitement throughout. The drama of qualification often rivals the World Cup itself, with many memorable moments over history. In 1993, Australia famously beat Argentina in a playoff to qualify for the World Cup. The qualification process creates heroes and villains as players perform under enormous pressure. Some teams have never qualified for the World Cup, and they are desperate to break their duck in 2026. The dream of playing in the World Cup drives players and nations to push beyond their limits in qualification. Now let us look at what makes World Cup qualification so special for players and fans around the world. Qualifying for the World Cup is the ultimate achievement for any national team player in football. The moment of qualification is celebrated with incredible passion and joy by players and fans alike. Players often cry tears of joy when they secure their place at the World Cup Finals tournament. The qualification journey builds bonds between players and fans that last a lifetime and beyond. World Cup qualification brings nations together and creates moments of pure footballing joy. The road to the World Cup is long and difficult, but the reward is absolutely worth every effort. Now let us discuss the impact of the expanded format on qualification for the World Cup 2026. The expansion to 48 teams means that more teams will have realistic hopes of qualifying. Smaller nations now have a better chance of reaching the World Cup finals for the first time. The new format has created excitement and hope in countries that previously had no chance of qualifying. The expanded tournament will also mean that more fans get to experience the World Cup firsthand. The World Cup 2026 will be the most inclusive tournament in football history. Now let us look at some of the key dates for World Cup qualification across different confederations. Most confederations began their qualification campaigns in 2023 and 2024. The qualification process will conclude in 2025, with all teams knowing their fate. The final Intercontinental playoffs will take place just before the World Cup draw and tournament begins. The World Cup draw will take place after all teams have qualified for the tournament. This is when fans will discover which groups their teams will play in during the World Cup. Now let us look at the excitement building around World Cup qualification in different parts of the world. In Europe, fans are watching their nations navigate tricky qualification groups and tough away matches. The European qualifiers are always competitive and entertaining for fans to follow and enjoy. In South America, the marathon format creates incredible drama and tension throughout the campaign. South American fans are known for their passionate support during qualification matches at home. In Africa, the qualification process is always unpredictable, with many surprises and upsets happening. African football is growing rapidly, and the continent is producing more talented players than ever before. In Asia, the qualification process is long, but it gives many teams the opportunity to progress and develop. Asian football is improving, and more teams are becoming competitive on the global stage. In CONCACAF, the qualification process is an opportunity for teams to prove themselves against rivals. North American football is developing rapidly, and the region is producing exciting young talent. Now let us discuss the importance of FIFA rankings in the World Cup qualification process. FIFA rankings are used to seed teams for qualification draws and ensure competitive balance in groups. Higher-ranked teams are placed in better positions to qualify for the World Cup Finals tournament. However, rankings do not guarantee qualification, and lower-ranked teams often cause major upsets. The qualifying process is unpredictable, and that is what makes it so exciting for football fans. Now let us look at some of the potential surprise qualifiers for the World Cup 2026. Teams like Canada have already qualified as hosts, and they will be determined to make an impact. There are always one or two surprise teams that qualify for the World Cup against all expectations. These surprise qualifiers often become the feel-good stories of the tournament and capture hearts. The expansion to 48 teams means we could see more surprise qualifiers than ever before. Every nation dreams of qualifying for the World Cup, and the 2026 tournament is no different. Now let us discuss the atmosphere and excitement around World Cup qualification matches worldwide. Qualification matches are played in stadiums, packed with passionate fans supporting their national teams. The away matches are particularly challenging with hostile crowds and difficult playing conditions. Players must show mental strength and resilience to perform under intense pressure in qualification matches. The qualification journey is a test of character and determination for every single player involved. Now let us summarize all the key information about World Cup 2026 qualification. The hosts, USA, Mexico, and Canada, have automatically qualified for the tournament in 2026. UEFA has 16 spots, with 12 group winners qualifying and 4 playoff winners joining them. CONMEBOL has 6 automatic spots, with a 7th team entering the Intercontinental playoffs for a chance. CONCACAF has 6 spots, with the hosts already confirmed, and 3 more from the Octagonal round. CAF has 9 spots, with the winners of 9 groups qualifying automatically for the tournament. AFC has 8 spots, with the top 2 from 3 groups qualifying and playoff teams competing for more. OFC has 1 spot, with the winner of the OFC Nations Cup qualifying for the World Cup Finals. There are 2 Intercontinental playoff spots available for teams from different confederations to fight for. These playoffs involve teams from CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, AFC, and OFC competing for remaining spots. The qualification process is complex, but it ensures the best teams from every continent participate. The World Cup 2026 will be the biggest and most inclusive tournament ever held. 48 teams will compete for the most prestigious trophy in world football history. The qualification journey is where dreams are made and broken for players and nations. We hope this guide has helped you understand the World Cup 2026 qualification process. The road to the World Cup is filled with drama, excitement, and unforgettable football moments. Every match in qualification matters, and every goal can make the difference between success and failure. Fans around the world are following their team's qualification campaigns with intense passion and hope. The dream of qualifying for the World Cup drives nations to push beyond their limits in every match. Now let us look at what happens after all teams have qualified for the World Cup tournament. The qualified teams will be placed into groups for the World Cup Finals draw and tournament. Teams will prepare with friendlies and training camps before the World Cup begins in 2026. The World Cup is the pinnacle of football, and only the best teams from each continent qualify. The qualification process ensures that the most deserving teams earn their place at the tournament. Now let us discuss the legacy and impact of World Cup qualification on football development globally. The qualification process gives smaller nations exposure to top-level international competition regularly. This exposure helps develop football infrastructure and talent in countries across the world. The dream of qualifying for the World Cup motivates young players to pursue football careers. World Cup qualification has a positive impact on the growth and development of football globally. Now let us look at some of the emotional stories from World Cup qualification throughout history. There are countless stories of teams qualifying against all odds and capturing the hearts of fans. These stories inspire future generations of players and fans to believe in their football dreams. The drama and emotion of qualification is what makes football the beautiful game that we all love. Now let us share our final thoughts on the World Cup 2026 qualification process. The qualification journey is an essential part of the World Cup experience for players and fans. Every team has a story, and every qualification campaign is unique and special in its own way. We are excited to see which teams will ultimately qualify for the World Cup 2026. The tournament will be incredible, and we cannot wait for the action to begin in the summer. Thank you for watching this comprehensive guide to World Cup 2026 qualification. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your football-loving friends. Stay tuned for more World Cup content as we continue to cover the road to 2026. We will bring you updates on qualification results and analysis throughout the campaign. The countdown to the World Cup has begun, and we are absolutely thrilled to be on this journey. Football unites the world, and the World Cup is the greatest celebration of our beautiful game. We hope you are as excited as we are for the World Cup 2026 in USA, Mexico, and Canada. This has been your complete guide to who is in and who is out of the World Cup qualification.